welcome back and hope you're all having a wonderful day. So today it's my birthday and I've made my favorite tiramisu cake. So tiramisu is an Italian coffee flavored dessert and original recipe calls for ladyfingers. But here I've made it with basic eggless sponge cake and frosted it with mascarpone, cream cheese and sugar. So let's see the making of this cake.
So for making the eggless sponge cake, I'm adding 3/4 cup of sugar into a large bowl, and then I'm adding about 1 cup of yogurt and mix everything well with a hand blender until this sugar dissolves nicely in the yogurt. So now the sugar is dissolved nicely, so let's add half cup of vegetable oil and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract into the mixture and beat nicely until the oil incorporates well with the yogurt and sugar. So now the oil has blended nicely, so now let's add the dry ingredients. So into a sieve I'm adding 1 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half teaspoon of baking soda and 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and sieve it nicely into the yogurt mixture. Sieving helps us to give that really smooth batter, and also there will be no lumps in the batter if we sieve the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. Now first let's use a spatula before using the hand beater, and then use a hand beater. Mix until no flour can be seen, and make sure not to over mix it as it will break the air bubbles and make the cake dense, and also scrape down the batter from the sides in between. Now the batter is ready to bake. So here I've lined an 8-inch cake pan with the parchment paper, and I'm also greasing the sides with butter so that the cake can come out easily after baking. Now let's add the cake batter into the pan, and don't forget to give the pan a few good taps so that the cake batter evenly spreads around the pan and pops out any air bubbles. Next, preheat the oven to 300° Fahrenheit and bake the cake for about 35 minutes. Now the cake is ready, and let's allow it to cool down before frosting. So while the cake is cooling down, let's make the frosting. For that, here I've taken 500 grams of cream cheese. Next I'm going to add 200 grams of mascarpone cheese. This is a very smooth and delicious cheese that can be used to make tiramisu. If you don't find it, that's alright. You can also make the frosting with cream cheese and also 1 cup of whipping cream instead of mascarpone cheese. Since I have it, I'm using it in the cake. So I'm using the whole package as it's almost 200 grams. Next I'm adding 3/4 cup of sugar. This is granulated sugar. You can also use powdered sugar so that the mixing becomes easier. Next, set the beater on high and mix everything nicely until the sugar dissolves and incorporates well with the cream cheese. And now the frosting is ready and we can set it aside. Now the cake has cooled down completely, so let's cut the cake into 2 equal halves. So use a serrated knife so that makes it easier to cut the cake, and there will be a little crumbs while cutting. So I've cut the cake into 2 halves, so let's start frosting now. Nice coffee flavor to the cake. Here I've taken 1 cup of coffee and added 1 tablespoon of sugar, and brushed the mixture nicely onto the cake to give a nice coffee flavor to the cake. Next add frosting onto the cake and spread it evenly. Next, I'm gonna dust some cocoa powder onto the cake using a sieve. Next, I place the other half of the cake on top, and now I'm brushing the cake nicely with the coffee. Now add generous amount of frosting onto the cake and complete the frosting. Dipping the spatula in hot water helps to give a nice smooth finish to the cake. So I'm done frosting the cake with cream cheese frosting. So I'm planning to give a design on top of the cake with skewer sticks. So I'm planning to give a diamond design on top of the cake, so that I crisscrossed some wooden skewer sticks on top of the cake, and next I'm gonna dust it with some cocoa powder, so that gives a nice diamond figure on top of the cake. Next, I'm gonna make little flowers on the sides of the cake with the remaining frosting. And I had some round chocolate chips, so I'm just placing it on the sides of the cake just to make it more beautiful. And this is the final look of our tiramisu cake. So friends, that's all for today. I hope you love this recipe, and I hope you'll try out this recipe at home. And it's a very yummy cake, and I'm sure you'll love it. So thank you friends for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.